My name is Daniel Reeves. I'm 41 years old, a high school history teacher from Dayton, Ohio. I've spent my life helping kids understand the mistakes of the past, but nothing in any textbook ever prepared me for the lesson I was about to learn in my own home. I always believed in loyalty, trust. I believed in building something solid, slow, and strong. That's the kind of man I was. That's the kind of husband I tried to be. And that's exactly what made what happened so devastating. I wasn't supposed to be home that day. We were on a school trip to Columbus, 2 hours away. But one of the students got sick. I called in a backup chaperone, made sure everything was taken care of, and decided to surprise my wife. We'd been married for 13 years. I figured she'd be happy to see me. I even stopped to grab her favorite coffee on the way. But as I walked up the driveway, something felt off. I couldn't explain it. Just this quiet in my bones. The garage door was shut. Her car was there, but there was no music playing inside. No TV. No sound at all. I unlocked the front door. Quiet. Too quiet. I moved through the hallway, soft steps, thinking maybe she was taking a nap or reading upstairs. And then I heard it. A voice. A man's voice. Low. Confident. Then laughter. Hers. That kind of laugh you don't fake. I stopped breathing. My legs moved without asking permission, slow and numb like I was sleepwalking. I climbed the stairs one at a time, and when I reached the bedroom, the door wasn't even fully closed. I saw everything. She didn't see me at first, neither did he. They were too caught up in each other. I dropped the coffee. The cup hit the floor with a sound louder than any scream I could have made, and just like that, time froze. She turned, eyes wide, like she'd seen a ghost. He scrambled, covering himself, shouting, but I didn't hear a word he said. The ringing in my ears drowned everything out. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I didn't even move. I just stared. And in that moment, something inside me cracked so cleanly, I could almost hear it. I turned around, walked downstairs, got in my car, and drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I had to breathe somewhere else. But the worst part, that moment wasn't even the deepest betrayal, not by a long shot. That was just the spark. The explosion came later. Before that day, before everything fell apart, I thought I had a good life. Not perfect, sure, but solid, steady. The kind of life you build when you believe in commitment over chaos. I met Sarah at a bookstore of all places. She was standing in the psychology aisle, flipping through a copy of The Art of Happiness. I made some awkward joke about the title. Something like, "Does that book come with a guarantee?" She smiled. And just like that, she had me. We dated for almost 2 years before we got married. She was kind, funny, smart, someone who made the world feel less heavy. I loved how she listened, really listened. I thought she saw me in a way no one else ever had. We bought a small house together just outside Dayton. Nothing fancy, but it had a porch with a swing and a backyard with a fire pit. She decorated every room like it meant something. And I worked hard. I wanted to provide for us, to give her peace. She was a freelance designer. That meant long hours, sometimes erratic paychecks, but I never complained. I picked up tutoring gigs on the weekends, graded papers late into the night. We weren't rich, but we were stable, or so I thought. Every anniversary, I'd write her a letter. Old-fashioned, I know, but I believed in words, especially when they came from the heart. She kept them all in a box under our bed, or at least, she used to. We used to cook together every Sunday. Her favorite meal was lemon pepper chicken. Mine was steak and potatoes, so we made both every time. It became our little ritual, a way to press pause on the noise of the world. I remember one Sunday night in particular, maybe 3 years before everything happened. We were sitting on the floor, eating off mismatched plates, watching reruns of Friends. She looked at me and said, "You're my safe place." I still remember the way her voice sounded when she said that. Software certain. And I believed her. For years, I thought we were a team. We talked about starting a family, about visiting Italy someday, about growing old together. I used to bring her flowers just because. Not on holidays, not on birthdays, just on ordinary Wednesdays. Because love, I thought, should be shown in the quiet moments. But then, little things started to change. She stopped waiting up for me when I had late school events. She stopped making playlists for our car rides. She stopped laughing at my jokes, even the good ones. At first I thought maybe she was just stressed, burned out. Freelancing can be a lonely game. I told her to take some time off, recharge, take a trip if she needed it, but instead she just grew more distant. I remember reaching for her hand one night while watching a movie. She pulled it away, like my touch made her skin crawl. That was the first time I felt something cold settle into my chest. Like maybe I was loving someone who had already let go. But I pushed the thought away. Because that's what you do when you're loyal. You don't panic. You don't accuse. You trust. I told myself it was just a phase. That love was bigger than moods. That if I just stayed steady long enough, we'd find our way back. And then, just like that, it was Christmas. She didn't get me anything. Not even a card. I told myself it didn't matter. That we were saving money. But deep down, something in me whispered, "She's already gone." I ignored it. Because sometimes denial feels safer than truth. But looking back now, there were signs everywhere. I just refused to see them. I kept holding on to the woman I thought she was, while the real one was slipping further away every single day. And the worst part, I still loved her. Even when the air between us turned cold. Even when she barely looked me in the eye. Even when she forgot how to say goodnight. I loved her. But love alone wasn't enough to save us. And soon I'd realize just how far gone she really was. They say when something breaks in a house, you can hear it. A pipe bursts, a window shatters. But when a marriage breaks, it's silent. You just feel the cold wind crawl in, and you pretend it's nothing. That's how it started for me. Silent. I began noticing things I wasn't supposed to notice. Her phone, once left everywhere, on the kitchen counter, on the nightstand, even in the bathroom, was suddenly glued to her hand. Always on silent, always face down. She started locking the screen with a new passcode. I asked her why once, casually, like I didn't care. She shrugged and said, "Everyone's locking their phones these days. Privacy, you know?" But she used to share everything with me. Her playlists, her passwords, her world. And now, I was standing outside of it, like a stranger. I began coming home to find her out of breath, like she'd just run up the stair or quickly closed a door. Once I called out to her the moment I stepped inside. No answer. I walked upstairs and found her in the closet. She said she was organizing winter clothes, but there was no pile, no boxes, no mess. Just her, and that strange, shaky look in her eyes. The dinner stopped. The conversations dried up. I was no longer her safe place. I was just a man who slept on the other side of the bed. One night I woke up to use the bathroom. It was around 2 a.m. Her side of the bed was empty. I found her in the living room, sitting in the dark, staring at her phone. She jumped when I walked in, said she couldn't sleep. I didn't say a word, but the next night I stayed awake, pretending to sleep. At exactly 2:07 a.m., her phone lit up. A message. She smiled at the screen. That smile. I hadn't seen it in months, and it wasn't meant for me. The next morning I checked our credit card statement. A charge at a hotel, just 2 towns over, 2 nights ago. "I was shopping with Emily," she said without hesitation. "Girls' night. We stayed at a spa resort. I told you, remember?" She hadn't told me. I would have remembered. I nodded anyway, because in that moment I didn't want to fight. I wanted to believe her, but something in me had shifted. I stopped asking questions and started watching. I noticed how her perfume changed. She never wore it around me anymore. But once when she came back late, she smelled like she'd stepped out of a magazine ad. She changed her passwords. She started getting phone calls in the laundry room. She locked her laptop when she left the room, even for just a minute. One afternoon, I opened the fridge and saw a bottle of wine I'd never seen before. She didn't drink wine, at least not with me. "A gift from a client," she said. I nodded again. But something inside me whispered, "Liar." The worst part of suspicion is the way it eats at you. It turns every moment into a riddle, every word into a weapon, every silence into proof. I began journaling everything. Dates, times, words, purchases. I wasn't looking for drama. I wasn't trying to start a war. I just wanted the truth she wouldn't speak. I stopped sleeping well. I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, wondering whose name she whispered when I wasn't home, who she laughed with while I worked overtime. And then came the phone bill. We shared a plan, always had, but for some reason, she'd upgraded her line. Now she had international calling. She hadn't told me. Who was she calling? I printed the logs. Same number, over and over, late at night, early mornings, sometimes 3-4 times a day. When I confronted her, calmly, carefully, she exploded. Said I was being paranoid, that I was insecure, that I didn't trust her anymore. She flipped it back on me, like I was the villain, and I let her, because somewhere in the back of my heart, I still hoped I was wrong, but I wasn't. I saw it in her eyes every time I looked at her. The warmth was gone, the softness gone. I was no longer the man she came home to. I was just the one in the way. But I wasn't angry yet. Not then. I was patient, watching, recording, waiting for the one moment, the snap, that would finally confirm everything I feared. And when that moment came, it shattered everything. I remember the exact day, Friday, October 14th. I was supposed to be out of town for a site inspection. My team leader called in sick, and the trip got canceled last minute. I didn't tell her. I thought maybe, just maybe, I'd surprise her with breakfast. I picked up her favorite, the blueberry bagel with extra cream cheese, black coffee, and the little vanilla biscuit she always pretended not to like, but finished anyway. It felt almost romantic, like we could still save something. I pulled into our driveway just past 7:30 a.m. Her car was still there. The house was quiet. I stepped inside and set the bag down gently, careful not to make a sound. As I walked up the stairs, a weird heaviness came over me. My heart started pounding, not from excitement, but from something deeper, something I didn't want to name yet. Our bedroom door was slightly open. I pushed it slowly. What I saw, I will never forget it. There he was, in my bed, wearing nothing but a smirk. And her, wrapped in the sheets, eyes wide, frozen like a deer in headlights. Not guilty, not ashamed, just caught. No one said anything, not a word. I stood there, bagel in one hand, her favorite coffee in the other, watching the two people who'd buried knives in my back, now pretending they weren't bleeding. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just walked out. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely put the coffee on the counter without spilling it. The blueberry bagel, I threw it in the bin. That day, something inside me died, but something else woke up. That was the last time I gave her the benefit of the doubt. The last time I told myself I was imagining things. The last time I tried to be the man who saved what was already gone. I went down to the basement, locked the door behind me, and sat in the dark. And for the first time in my life, I started planning revenge. Not the messy kind, not loud, not violent, but clean, precise, surgical. I'd given this woman 11 years of my life. I'd held her during panic attacks. I'd carried her father's coffin. I'd worked 2 jobs when she lost hers. And now she gave him our bed, the sheets we bought together, the place where we used to dream, number. I wasn't going to let her walk away with a lie. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to show her and him exactly who they messed with. The next morning, I called my lawyer, not to file for divorce yet. Number that would come later. First, I needed proof. Cold, undeniable, legal. Because when I take a shot, I don't miss. After that day, everything changed. But no one around me noticed. I still smiled at the neighbors, still showed up to work early, still cooked dinner on Thursdays like I always did. But inside I was sharpening knives, the kind made of truth and silence. I didn't confront her, didn't throw her out. I let her think I hadn't seen a thing. And that was the most dangerous thing I could have done. Because when someone thinks they've gotten away with it, they get comfortable. And when they're comfortable, they get careless. That's exactly what I needed. The first thing I did was buy a second phone, untraceable, paid in cash. I hid it in my garage toolbox under the rusted pliers. I installed voice recorders, screen mirroring apps, and synced everything to a secret drive. She had no idea. I started tracking every move she made. She thought I was just being loving again, working on us. But I was working on something far greater, her downfall. At night when she fell asleep, I'd quietly unlock her phone with her thumb. She was deep in dreams. I was wide awake in hell. What I found was worse than I imagined. There were messages not just from the man I saw in our bed, but from 3 other men, all using nicknames like M or B. They sent photos, voice notes. One even said, "Can't wait to be in your bed again while your dumb husband is at work." She replied, "He has no clue, he's too nice, too easy to fool." I saved that one twice. I created a file, encrypted, time-stamped, organized by date, sender, content. Every message, every hotel booking, every credit card charge she made without my knowing. I even got the receipts. Next, I visited an old Army buddy, Josh, who now works in cybersecurity. We served together in Iraq, saved each other's lives once. He didn't ask many questions, just listened. After I told him, he nodded and said, "She's going to wish she left you clean." He helped me back up everything in a mirrored cloud drive that couldn't be traced to me. He also taught me how to capture live location data and deleted call logs. I wasn't just watching anymore. I was building a case. Then came the financial part. I quietly opened a new bank account under my name only, redirected my direct deposit, started moving small amounts of our joint savings without alerting the system. She was so distracted with her double life, she didn't even notice the balance dropping. I hired a forensic accountant and told him I suspected marital fraud. He was expensive, but worth every cent. Because what he uncovered, she had secretly taken out a loan in my name worth $35,000. She forged my signature. That was the final nail. One night she came home late, the usual lie, girls' night. I had already captured her location. She was at a hotel. I asked her how it went. She kissed my cheek and said, "Nothing exciting, just drinks and gossip." I smiled. Inside, I was steel. A week later, I called a divorce attorney, top tier, reputation for being brutal, especially in cases of betrayal. When I showed him my file, he actually leaned back in his chair and whispered, "Wow." He told me, "If we handle this right, she'll get nothing, not even the cat." I didn't want to destroy her. I just wanted truth to burn loud enough that she couldn't hide from it anymore. I also printed everything. Hard copies, labeled, dated. I put it all in a locked black briefcase and hid it under my car's floor mat, next to the spare tire. Just in case, because when war is coming, you don't carry your sword in your hand. You hide it until it's time to strike. She had no clue. She was still laughing, flirting on the phone in the shower, texting her boyfriends while asking me to buy her wine on the way home. I kept the same calm face, kept my voice even. But my soul, it had become fire. The final piece of the puzzle came when I received a notification from one of the spy apps. Audio file recorded, 2 minutes, 48 seconds. I listened. She was with him, and in that file she said, "I could take him for half of everything if I wanted. He's too soft to fight me. He'll probably cry and hand me the house." I saved that file, multiple copies, because the day of reckoning was coming. And it would be quiet, legal, cold, but most of all, it would be final. The morning I decided to end it, the sun was shining like nothing had ever gone wrong. Birds chirped, coffee brewed. She was humming a song she used to sing back when she loved me. But I knew this would be the last time she'd ever pretend in front of me, because everything was ready. I walked into the kitchen and said, "Hey, let's grab lunch today. Just us. Feel like it's been a while." She smiled like she still had her mask on, said, "Sure, babe. Where to?" I told her, "The law office, do see." Her smile froze. Before she could ask why, I kissed her forehead and walked out the door, just like she'd done to me 1,000 times, lying straight through her lips. At 1:55 p.m., she arrived at the law office, confused, wearing heels too high for courtrooms and lies too thick for forgiveness. My lawyer greeted her, So did the envelope. Inside, a full divorce filing, a list of her affairs, bank statements, audio files, loan documents, and a restraining order if she tried to touch a single penny more. She turned pale. My lawyer said, "This is not a negotiation. This is a final statement. My client is willing to walk away clean if you do the same. If not, the public record will include everything, all of it." She didn't say a word, didn't cry, didn't shout, because there's a moment when the guilty know it's over. No lie can bend time backward. No excuse can cover betrayal this big. She just nodded. But it wasn't over yet, because I had one last thing planned, not for revenge, for justice. 2 weeks later, I sat in a small courtroom. She was on the left with her cheap new lawyer. I had a folder on my lap. Inside, the audio file, the one where she laughed about taking everything. The judge looked at her, then at me. He asked, "Do you have any evidence to support your request for sole asset protection?" I said, "Yes, Your Honor. May I play a recording?" He nodded. I hit play. The courtroom was quiet, and then came her voice. "He's too soft to fight me. I could take him for half of everything. He won't do a thing." Then came the voice of her lover. "Use him, drain him." And then, her laugh. Cold, cruel. That laugh stayed in the air even after the audio ended. The judge paused, wrote something down, looked her directly in the eye and said, "This court sees no sign of partnership, only deception. Full asset protection granted to the plaintiff." She gasped. Her lawyer looked defeated. And me? I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just stared forward, the way you do after surviving a battlefield. Because this wasn't about hurting her. It was about stopping the bleeding inside my soul. She walked out of that courtroom with nothing. No house, no savings, not even the car. I had the loan paperwork to prove I paid every penny. In the weeks that followed, she tried texting me. Once she said, "You didn't have to destroy me like that." I didn't reply, because I hadn't destroyed her. She destroyed herself. All I did was show the world what she truly was. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but to me, it was never about the temperature. It was about clarity. I wanted her to see herself, the version she thought no one would ever uncover. And in that courtroom, with her lies echoing through the speakers, and her face drained of every ounce of pride, she did. It's been 18 months since that day in court, since I walked out not just with a folder of legal wins, but with my soul stitched back together, piece by piece. The house is quiet now, but it's my quiet. No lies, no games, no late-night whispers in someone else's phone. Just me and peace. The first few weeks were hard, not because I missed her, but because I missed who I thought she was. I kept replaying old memories, trying to find the moment she changed. Was it the promotion I got that made her feel left behind? Was it the long hours I worked so we could travel? Was it me? But here's the truth no one tells you. Sometimes people break not because of you, but because they were broken long before they ever met you. I started therapy. I started journaling. I started talking to people I'd pushed away while trying to hold a lie together. Turns out, the version of me that lived for her approval, that man died the day I walked into that bedroom. And what was born from those ashes? Someone I actually like. I picked up painting again, something I hadn't done in over 20 years. I joined a veterans hiking group, guys who've seen real war and still choose kindness. I even adopted a dog, name's Ranger. He listens better than she ever did. And one day, it was a Sunday, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, and for the first time in years, I smiled. Not a forced smile, Not a mask to get through the day. A real one. One that came from surviving. People always ask me, if you could go back, would you change anything? Number, because the man who walked into that bedroom that afternoon, he needed to break. He needed to burn everything to the ground so something stronger could rise. She took my trust. She took my time. She almost took my future, but she never took my soul. If you're watching this and you've been betrayed, let me tell you something from one scarred heart to another. You are not weak for feeling broken. You are not stupid for having loved someone who couldn't love you back the right way. And you are not alone. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, cold, written in court transcripts, or found in the silence of your new home, where peace finally sleeps next to you. I forgave her, not for her, but for me, because I refused to carry her darkness into my future. I rebuilt, not for revenge, not to prove anything, but because I deserve joy. We all do. If you're still here, thank you for listening to my story, for letting me share what I once thought I'd never say out loud. And if you've ever been through something like this, drop a comment below. You're not invisible, not here. Don't forget to subscribe. I've got more stories to tell. Some mine, some yours. But all of them real. Because sometimes the best way to heal is to speak. And finally, she took everything except my soul. And from that, I rebuilt my life. Not for her, not for revenge, but for me.